All right, it's all yours, Patty, and you should be ready to share, and you let me know. I'll watch when we get the polls.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Well, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm very excited to work today with Jeff and the CoreX legal team and you all. I'm excited. My objective today is not just to provide information, but I would like you to walk away with some specific things that you can take to your businesses, your ventures, and you can apply them to increase your success and decrease your risk. So that is my intention today. As Jeff mentioned, I started my marketing career in companies like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, BBVA, and I learned a lot of important things from them. I also realized that most companies do not have the resources to go through all the process and the steps that a corporation does. And when I started working with smaller ventures and growth stage companies, I realized there were opportunities there where we could translate the big company marketing and apply them to smaller ventures, so we could capitalize on those processes. So we're going to talk today about some opportunities that I have seen with most of my clients that even though they might have seemed like common sense to me coming from a company like Procter & Gamble, most smaller organizations, because we don't have the same resources, then we might miss those, thinking we're cutting corners and missing some important opportunities that might not be as expensive as we think. So I am going to share my screen. Hold on, give me a second. Are you seeing my screen? No. Not yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so I am going to ask you a question today. In your everyday life, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? If you can respond, and we'll see the results. Jeff, do you have the results?
Yeah, I'm just giving everybody a few seconds to respond.
Right.
So, Patty, you have to understand that my first response was right, but the right response is happy. So I clicked happy.
Exactly, Deb. You're right. That's exactly you. Thank you for mentioning that. That's exactly how I feel.
All right. Well, there we go.
Okay, so yeah, the right response is happy. But guess what? We don't. We see it every time in our, like going to social media. Do you rather be happy or would you rather be right? Look at your meetings in your business or with your customers. Would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? We really tend to want to be right. For some reason, that's human nature. And so we need to, just as you said, Deb, we have to reflect a little bit and say, wait, let me see, because I'm not sure, really, even though most of us think we'd rather be happy. So what do you think this has to do with marketing? As with everything in life, we, in our business, it applies more or less the same. Would you rather be right or would you rather be successful?
Oh, let me get that one. Sorry.
I think I'm good. Just gonna.
There we go. It's up there. Wasn't ready.
Well, if I don't want to work with somebody, I think I'd much rather be right. But generally, I'd rather be successful.
Yes, of course, of course. And, the same thing, like in life, we want to be happy. We do everything because we want to be happy. At the end of the day, it makes us feel a certain way. We do everything because it makes us feel a certain way. But, hidden in these answers is the fact that being right makes us feel good, happy, and successful. And that is a misunderstanding. In general, it doesn't work that way. That's why we really need to make a conscious effort to be open to be wrong, which doesn't feel very good. So raising our probability of success, for this, we really need to start testing our assumptions with openness to adapt. Because when we think, I'd rather be happy or I'd rather be successful, in many instances, it means that I'm going to have to be wrong. I have to be open to be wrong. And if you are the leader of a company, if you have the typical profile of a CEO or an entrepreneur, we really don't want to be wrong. And we see that all the time with ventures. We have like startups have a huge rate of failure. So what is marketing? And this is a way, most of my clients and most of the small organizations think marketing, I need a logo, I need a website, social media, I need graphics, I need all of those things. And those are, of course, part of the tactical marketing. But we sometimes, like right when we start a company, we jump to those items, and then we think we have good marketing. And now more than ever, for instance, with social media, with digital marketing, we are noticing that success metrics do not translate into sales necessarily, or into success in our numbers. We have many companies that have great graphics, humor, retweets, reposts, and they are not profitable. So they become more like entertainment and less a business strategy. So we need to see, well, what do we need to do? Because yes, we do need a website. We do need social media posts most of the times. We do need graphics, but there are certain things that we can do before that. For instance, today we're going to talk about 4 components of marketing that we tend to miss: market research, concept development, market validation, and adjustments. When we talk about market research, we are talking about building a base of information, of course, and I am sure that each one of us has lots and lots of information. This is the era of information, right? So we just click a button and we have tons of information. But again, I'm going to insist in this openness to be wrong with our initial assumptions, because that will help us reduce the risk of our business. So in your organizations, do you search the web for information, read subject matter expert reports, blogs, etc., or you don't? One of my favorite ones lately, of course, it's in the last few years at podcasts. I learned so much from subject matter experts. Well, 90% of you do, and that is not unusual. That is called secondary research, and most organizations do this very well. Sometimes we just start a business by, we have an idea and we start searching the internet, and we talk to some people and we listen to podcasts, and we have a good Well, in this era, of course, we can get secondary research. We can have reports from universities. We can see the trends. We can get every morning in our emails. We can have what is going on in the world in your industry, and that all is part of secondary research, and that's low cost, of course. You can see what others can see, and it's quick to obtain. We can just move very, very fast with it. And when we talk about seeing what others can see, this is important because marketing is based on perceptions. It doesn't matter really what I do. Like, if I perceive myself in one way, you perceive me in a different way. If I am trying to market something to you, how you perceive what I am offering is what is most important. So here we can see the trends and what others see. Very important.
Hey, Patty.
Yes.
Before we hit this next poll question, to your point, I know I see it in myself. How often do you see entrepreneurs and business owners resisting? I'll call it resisting the idea of getting outside input and really locking into their ideas, even if they say they're open, but they're actually resistant to it. How often do you see that, and what do you think's behind that?
Jeff, I see it very often. It is, most entrepreneurs have a certain profile. That's why they are entrepreneurs. They have ideas and they're right in many of their assumptions. They're visionaries and they are go-getters, right? And so that supports the idea that I'm right. But many times, and I have seen it over and over again, they cannot see, or they don't have the patience, let me put it that way, of listening, or of openly listening without a filter. Because, and we're going to see a little bit, like we can talk about certain things, but I remember, for instance, one of my clients, and this is very typical. This was a furniture store that was not doing well. They were thinking about closing a chain of furniture stores. And he loved his furniture. He really had the vocation and he had incredible taste. So he would go all around the world finding furniture and bringing it to the United States. And he was sure, he had a list of reasons why everybody should be buying their furniture. And it was so difficult for him to listen what other people thought, because the more we love a project, the more we love something, and we'll see, it's like we are invested in it. So that is a very, very typical position of an entrepreneur. It's not that they're bad people. It's just that also has a positive aspect to it that make them go get things. So we have to work on a balance most of the times.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
There you go.
So in your organizations, do you have a written research strategy?
People are answering. I'll give it a couple more seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, I love what you said, Patty, because I know it's true for me. It's so easy for me to fall in love not only with my ideas, but if I love my idea, then I'm convinced the whole world will love my idea.
Yes.
And all I have to do is put it out there and I win.
Yes, of course. And it's normal. And again, it's not all bad. It's great that we have passion and that we have vision. That's great. It's just a matter of balancing both. And that's why research can help us. Okay, 90% of you do not have a written research strategy, which is not unusual. Again, oops. Most organizations keep this kind of research, as we just saw. and the advantages are that we have unique information. We can gather unique information, custom to our needs, and we control the timing. And that is very important. And that is called primary research, research that we do directly, that it's not available to everyone. But if research is important, and we see that all the time, there are statistics, that's the ABC of business. Why is it that most startups skip this step? And again, Jeff, just like you were mentioning, people don't like to be wrong. It can feel scary. And not only, again, it's not because we're bad people. It's just that if we have an idea and we're betting on that idea, when somebody says no, or you could do something differently, it feels scary. It feels like it's our investment. But there are ways to handle that. We might think it's expensive when seed money might be scarce. For instance, research goes a long way. This is a misunderstanding because research goes a long way when we are trying to get funding. People, venture capitalists, seed money is just, it depends, of course, but research goes a long way when we are fundraising. They don't know where to start or what questions to ask. And that is a very important point, because we just don't want to have nice to know information. We want to have information that is going to be valuable to us. This good to know, it's, we can spend the whole day looking at research, and then at the end of the day feel like, well, it was great to know, now what?
Another question, Patty. How important is this primary research and this market research have you seen with investors, even at the early stages? Because I know for me, I see so many people saying, look, the market's X size, all I need is 1% of this. And it's just this formula that shows a big number, but there's not much research. And I can tell you, for me, most of the questions I get in raising money from investors is, what research have you done? What can you show me that tells me people want this and they will buy it from you and they want it, they get what you're selling?
Absolutely. That is so important. And that's why I mentioned briefly that it's a catch-22. When you need money the most is when people ask you for this research that you tend to think it's expensive. But we need to provide research for there are so many ideas out there. And more so today than a couple of years ago, venture capitalists or funders in general are being very, very careful where they put their money, and they need proof that this is going to be profitable, actionable, that it's going to resonate with the market. Market research is one very important component that I am surprised every time that I see a deck, fundraising deck, and see no research there, only secondary research, the market, whatever is available. And what is available there is usually not that exciting. Or even contradictory, like Google, should I take all the reasons to take vitamin E and the good reasons, and you'll have a huge list of great reasons. Now Google all the reasons against taking vitamin E, and you'll find a whole list of things. So when we do secondary research, we have to be very, very, very careful with our sources, with how we're going to use it, with not manipulating the data. And I see that a lot. We can get data that supports our points. And that's what a lot of organizations do. Get the data that support our points instead of putting the offering out there and see what resonates, what doesn't resonate, how we have to modify it, etc. So it's very, very important. Again, we were talking about nice to know information, and we need to make sure that we research actionable information, and that will reduce the cost. Usually when we start designing research for clients, we start with 100 questions, and then we start saying, okay, if this is going to be a yes, or this is going to be a no, what are you going to do with it? Nothing. Next, we're not going to ask that. We have to see, if we have this kind of answer, do we have an action that we can take that will make us better? If the answer is no, then we just take that piece of information that we would like to know out, and then we bring another one. It could be inspirational, it could be creative, it could be different things. It doesn't have to be quantitative, but we need to make sure that it's actionable. That will show us real potential with our customers. For instance, likes and dislikes, very, very important. And when we ask likes and dislikes, we need to make sure that we ask, if I say, do you like me? I might get 100% people telling me yes, just because the way I asked, not because they like me, but if I ask, do you like me or not? I'm giving permission to answer no, and it's okay. I'm sending the message that it's okay to say no. And so that is a very important way of asking someone else, qualitatively and quantitatively, do you like my product? Yes or no? Give me your likes, give me your dislikes, and not bias the information from the beginning. Needs, very, very important. What needs are we going to be meeting? Competition, not always obvious. How many times do we think, my competition is like this direct store that is in front of mine, or this direct, all these direct competitors, right? And we're seeing it right now. The world is changing so fast. For instance, many people, I was just looking at some research yesterday that the trend of finding news on TikTok is much higher than what anyone could have imagined, when most of the news organizations are still measuring their competition as other networks. And that is absolutely not true. So competition has to be, the definition of your competition most of the times needs to be broadened. Values and preferences, of course.
Hey, Patty, while
Yep.
you're on that point, I think it fits here. That last slide was a lot of things you're looking at about the research. You and I have talked about there's still this ongoing preoccupation in the market with impressions. That marketing's all about impressions. And I don't see anything you're talking about here is about impressions. So can you talk for a moment about your thoughts on this impression marketing versus strategic marketing? I guess that's how I would say it.
Yeah, right. Jeff, actually, a couple of years ago, no, right before the pandemic, so 3 years ago already, I had the opportunity to be in a closed door meeting with CMOs from the big, Fortune 500 companies, maybe Fortune 50, top 50. And one of the things that surprised me was the fact that they were seeing that impressions were not translating into results. And even though their marketing departments were still reporting impressions, at the end of the day, they were saying, okay, great. And it became nice to know information, as we were saying. And then they would say, okay, now what does your gut say? Let's make a decision, or give me other research and let's make a decision. They were not basing their decisions on the popularity of their impressions, but on going back to the basics. And we see this, I think, in general, in our world. We see the need of going back to the basics in everything, right? The hype of the digital age, and it's undeniable. Please don't get me wrong. It's undeniable, and this world is changing day by day. But yet there's this wisdom in marketing and in business to go back to the basics and see what are your values? What are your preferences? Not in impressions, but what are your actions, your competition, your likes, your dislikes? At the end of the day, we are doing business with humans. and we can use all the technology we want, and we can spend all the time we want on social media, but at the end, we come back to these basic attributes that have to be relevant for the consumer or customer. Does that answer your question, Jeff?
It does. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So yes, okay, great. But what about the cost? You know, I'm a startup. I don't have a lot of money. And again, you know, in this day and age, we can use social media to test ideas and values, and not in terms of impressions, but comments. We can touch base with other people, and we can use social media to see what traction we will get. Of course, we have, you know, if you have a base of customers or potential customers, you can send a digitally a questionnaire. There are trade shows. I will never like to, you know, some people underestimate qualitative research, primary qualitative research, and especially at early stages. I would say sometimes it can be more important to have good qualitative research than quantitative research, because that's where we can start feeling our markets. We can get wording of how people describe our product, of the fears that they have about using technology, of how we could address one of the most challenging situations today with new products, that it's adoption. And at the end of the day, again, we're human, and listening to the human and the verbatim answers on their likes, dislikes, adoption issues, fears, thought process, intent of purchase, experiences, that is invaluable. And so if you just go to a trade show and with a clear strategy on research, and you and your partner, your team, whatever, and go and ask certain questions, record them, ask for permission, of course, but record the answers, find a way to, and technology can help us now divide answers into different categories, etc. So there are many creative ways that that a startup can use a trade show, for instance, or a gathering to get primary data. And the bottom line of all of these is generate insights. Your insights are going to be a key element to today and your future business strategy. Any questions? Because we're going to start talking about something different now.
I have one question.
Tell me.
So these are all good points, but also get requests for market research reports like costing $3,000, something like that. How valuable is that?
Well, it depends. It depends, right? It depends, because if you pay $3,000 for insights that are going to generate millions of dollars, it's very, very, very cheap. You know, so as everything, return on investment is important. And I would go back to this concept of getting actionable information. You can have a lot of information, and at the end of the day, find yourself being at the same place. So what information, and you know, you can use your imagination. If I find out this, what would I do with that? If I find out that, where would I go? You know, and that is very uncomfortable, Ramesh. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, Ramesh.
Yes, it's correct.
Okay. That makes us very, very uncomfortable, you know, when we have to imagine things. But that's why it's important that we do it in a controlled environment and not just like let our imagination run. Actually, I was just talking to Jeff not long ago about what happens when we let our imagination run, right? And just we need to land in the present moment. So, but in a controlled environment, when we are going to be thinking about planning and and what am I going to be doing in different scenarios, that is very, very important. And that way you can determine if it's expensive or not. And again, and that's why I want to, talk to, do you have a liquor store or something? Do I see that in your
No,
background?
it's funny. People ask me question. So I am more of a technology company focused on a very niche market. That's why it's liquor store space for intelligent inventory system solution around maintaining their stock on the shelves, pilferage, automating that process of auditing the stock.
Gotcha. Okay.
There were challenges as part of the not market research.
It's very
Didn't
easy
tell
way to
me
get
that.
this stuff off.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That somebody else was talking.
Yeah. So even though my market research is all just talking to customer and just listening to their workflow process and specific challenges, more of a customer discovery at this point. I don't have a lot of market research documentation. I did online, but it's more of because there's an emerging tech piece along with the current market product status. So how do you get that information when there's an emerging tech piece and the market challenges? Do you really get good market research out there? Has been my challenge.
You know what? Your question is incredible, and that's very, very important. Right now, and probably in the past few years, we are living a situation where nobody knows certain answers, like artificial intelligence. Not even the experts know exactly where this is going. Everybody has different theories, etc. But we're going to talk about something in a few slides that might be helpful to you. Because we are, many startups are facing exactly that. Even if you ask people, imagine that this, they cannot even imagine because that doesn't exist. And we are finding new ways, disrupting every industry. Right now, for instance, just looking at your background, I made assumptions because that's where my mind goes. I would have never guessed what you were doing, right? So that's the way our minds work. And so there's another way of running research. We'll get there. Give me a second, okay? But you are generating a lot of insights. But what do I do with those insights, right? Like, let's say we have some information. What do I do with those insights? And this is probably the most misunderstood step for startups, and usually where more startups fail to execute. The key is having clear insights and translate them to clear concepts that lead to product growth and profit. That is not new. I'm sure that you knew this. This is very important. We all know we have to have strong concepts, but how do we do this? Now, remember, most startups, like even in this webinar, we see that most people don't conduct or don't have a written research strategy. So let's think that we still don't have a lot of insights, but we're going to assume we have the insights because you all are going to go and you're going to make a list. And this will answer some of your question too. The first thing to do is to make the list of the questions that you would like to have answers to, not necessarily thinking how to get them, where to get them, how much are they going to cost you, but start with making a list of all the things you would like to know. That will give you this actionable information. So think about your businesses when your potential customers think about your product or service. What comes to their mind? If somebody wants to share or write it down on the chat box, and Jeff, if you can tell me, or even you can answer, Jeff, whatever.
People think it's too expensive.
Too expensive. Okay.
I mean, we're a CPA firm, so mostly people don't want to come to us because they don't want to file their taxes on time. It's like going to the dentist. And I joke with clients that I say, hey, I know it's like coming to the dentist, but you got to get it done once a year. You have to come in.
Gosh, yes. I
Yeah.
was just doing my taxes this Sunday and I was like having like panic attacks.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I always tell them I try to make it a pleasant experience if possible, but yeah, you do what you can.
I hear you. Okay.
So let me ask just real quick on that to answer your question, because I've got so many different things I'm working on. I'm not sure which one to answer for, but I know for the firm, a lot of times, and I like this, I think this means something's working. What comes to their mind is, boy, this is different. This is different. It's not a clear yes or no, but it's a, and in a lot of ways, that's what I want them to sense. So then they're curious to find out more about the difference.
All right. All right. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so when you think about I should have asked you this before you saw my slide, but when you think Paris, what comes to your mind? You know, so according to Webster Dictionary, a concept is something conceived in the mind, thought, notion, an abstract generic idea generalized from particular instances. People think about being afraid or expense or the Eiffel Tower or different. You know, that's a concept. It's something that we have in our minds. According to our methodology, based on marketing success, a concept is the description of the consumer needs of the product or service, that the product or service will satisfy, the reasons it will satisfy it, the needs, and the description of any key elements that will affect that perception. For instance, Newport, for instance, okay, they might think right now, fear or whatever. And then, but if we go back to this second description, we might try to change it to give information and provide a marketing strategy that would say, relief, because I don't have to worry about these things. It's not as expensive as if I would have the IRS behind me. You know, things that might come to mind and that can be done through marketing.
Like I've been trying to build on knowledge and value, for example, instead of fear, like you said.
Exactly. But that would be a concept that we will work on. Based on what? Insights, not what you want, because that's another question. What do you want your potential customers to think about when you mention your product or service? In this case, it will be knowledge. But, you know, that might not be what they need. They might feel peace. That's what they want, peace. I don't know. I'm just making it up, of course. But, you know, this is why research is so important. When I was, at some point, I got the professional opportunity to do concept development work throughout the world. And let's say it was a pharmaceutical company in France. And I was like, well, I have no idea of pharmaceuticals, and less so in France. But I learned by doing it that it didn't matter. What mattered was that we had the right kind of insights, because that way, those insights are not my opinions or the team's opinions, are what is really reflecting your potential market. And I realized that the methodology worked anywhere for most of the industries. I don't want to say all the industries, but for most of the industries, because insights are insights. So you might want your clientele to think about knowledge, and they might not care about knowledge. They might care about peace. You know, I don't know. And when you said that, did you base your answers to these questions on your ideas or research insights? I think we know. Okay, yeah. My ideas mostly, and probably a lot of secondary research also, because I'd be willing to bet that your ideas also are based on some of that secondary research. And this is, if you want to take a screenshot, or you might get the presentation later, right, Jeff? I don't know, but this is a very important.
We'll be sharing it. We will be sharing it with your permission.
Yes, of course. But I invite you to take a screenshot or to make this a checklist. You know, do I have a benefit that is meaningful? Do I eliminate a negative? That's your piece, for instance, you know, concept. Or do I have a superior product? Am I in a market of a trend that is growing? A competitive advantage? Do I have established brand name? For instance, Apple, you know, they can launch shoes. We would buy them. You know, their brand is so well established, we would buy them. Or do I have a price or value advantage? And I'm just going to go a little faster because I want to have time for questions and answers. But you must meet at least one, and the more that you meet, there's a correlation, a positive correlation of checking this and then finding success in the market. How do we do this? We gather the insights, and then with a team that usually has a CEO, the dev people, marketing, usually a potential client, somebody that doesn't like your product might be a good person to have in this team, sales, technology. You make a team, you bring the insights, and then you work as in a lab to find what concepts would be important that could resonate with your market based on those insights. And you start a process of asking questions of, I work with templates that we use, for instance, introducing blank, and then listing several the need that is being met, the market that it's addressing. How do you feel after using the product? You know, and don't underestimate, even if you're in technology, do not underestimate the power of emotions. People are moved by emotions. Everything we do, even if it's intellectually, you know, it produces an emotion. Even if you learn something new, it produces an emotion of joy of learning, or ease of everything. And we all humans tend to move with emotions. So make sure that you are considering emotions in your concept. And remember, we go back to, what do I want my clients to think or feel when I mention my product? And with a team of people with different disciplines, you can get to something that it's more solid. And then, is my baby as beautiful as I see it? Because at this point we have a baby, right? We have, like, we all entrepreneurs know how it is when we are so in love with our baby. We see it beautiful, and we don't know if others see it as beautiful as we see it. How interested is our customer in trying our proposed initiative? Maybe at this point, we need to conduct more research or go directly to minimum viable products. And that's where I wanted to go, Ramesh, with an organization like a company like yours. This might be the way to do your research. You know, with an MVP, you can just get lots of insights. You can get traction. And at this point, you know, like traction measurements, usage measurements, and intent of purchase measurements, that would be, even for investors, key.
Yes.
That's
good. Yeah, we are doing that with some early pilots with some tech enthusiasts, and they're excited about the technology. Now we have to deliver on the value that you're talking about.
That is incredible. But, you know, and what happens sometimes that I see happening is that the CEOs or the tech team is very knowledgeable about those things, but then you have to translate them into a concept.
Right.
Again, we come back to the perception of the people that are going to know about that. So you
Right.
can quantify it and then translate it into a concept and go to your funders, go to your potential clients, to your marketing people. Well, your marketing people should be helping you to do this, but it's very important. A lot of organizations think logo, social media, etc., and they don't think about the huge strategic piece that marketing is when you start developing or starting a company, because of this strategic vision that is not tactical.
Right.
And then, of course, you make sure that you have a strong product with all of this information, right? Not only a great concept, but that you have a strong product. Because Nupur, it's like your clients, they might find peace in their concept, but then they go with you, not you, not you personally, but you have to have the service or the product to back it up, right? Then you make your adjustment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, just remember, research, not ideas. A lot of organizations do these things, but not based on research, but based on assumptions and ideas. And then you have success. Literally, there are numerous studies about how this process correlates with success. And yes, at the end, you'll have a beautiful baby that people perceive as beautiful because it's based on both. Everybody created it together, and you can be right and you can be happy, right? Both. A bit different than where we started. Anyway, so that's the presentation. That's the process that it might sound obvious, but most startups fail to follow with insights. As we saw here, 90% have not done primary research, for instance.
Well, we're going to open this to questions, and Patty, I'm going to start the first question this way. After listening to what you shared, one thing jumped out at me that so often, this is me too, I've got this idea. When I think marketing, I go, and you had the slide, I need a website, and not only need a website, but it needs to be the coolest website ever. I'm going to invest heavily in my brand, and I'm going to have this cool visual. So I create all this good looking stuff. And then I say, oh, do I want to do market research? Well, I don't have any money because I spent it on all these other things. And I'm sure, I don't know, maybe there's neither right or wrong, but is it important to understand that the value of the research relative to all these bells and whistles of marketing?
Yeah, I'm going to just continue talking about that client because I have his permission to talk about his company. And it was such a clear process. They had already a marketing campaign, beautiful marketing campaign, invested a lot of money on website and e-commerce and and they were not selling as they thought. It was very hard to convince him to do research, and we did qualitative research. But when we did the qualitative research, we did qualitative research, and also with the permission of the customers, we asked the delivery people that would the people that were delivering the furniture to the homes to take pictures of the spaces. And because he was so in love with his furniture, the marketing campaign, website, everything was like next to the ocean and gorgeous spaces and all of those things. And we discovered that what people wanted to feel was to feel that they got home. And we saw that the places were small. And although the pieces were beautiful, it was the comfort of their own home that was important to them. So we changed the visuals, we changed all of those things to meet the reality. Every time, I don't know about you guys, but every time I fight with reality in my personal or business life, reality wins. Like all my ideas can do whatever they want, but reality wins. And that's what research does. It gives us a picture of reality. So to go back to your questions, I would invest if you don't have the time and the money to do first all the research and then all the tactical marketing, I would go in parallel, but design your website, your logo, your messaging based on research. And as you get more funding, as you go, adapt. And that's why one of those 4 components is adjust. We need to continue to adjust to reality, to continue to move forward.
Awesome. So we have a few more minutes. Does anybody else have a question for Patty? Just you can unmute and ask your question.
So Patty, one question.
Okay.
So I'm part of this accelerator program, and they talk about customer discovery and need, speed, and plead. So the research shows at a macro level a lot of details, right? I don't know if it goes down to micro level details of specific niche areas, and is there they don't capture the need and speed and plead. Some customers might express a need, but if they don't have the speed and the plead, hey, I really want this product, it's not going to happen. They may not give the money. So does the research really capture the need, speed, and plead of customers?
Well, depending what research, right? If
Right.
you are going to do a survey, quantitative research, you might not catch that. But if you do what you're doing, minimum viable product, and then you talk to your customers, and then you gather the information. Remember, the methodology is important because you might get the feeling, but you might not be able to translate it to your marketing people, to your funders, etc. So if you organize that information, you have verbatim, you adapt the product, you test it, that's a different kind of research, but then it will give you the answers, right? Of course, you have to invest some money. It takes time. It takes, that's part of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, but yes, you can do it.
Right. Anybody else got a question? I don't see any. All right. So with that, we will wrap this up. Thank you for being here. As always, we will send out a copy of the slide deck as well as the recording to everyone. Keep an eye out. Don't have the date pinned down, but in 2 or 3 weeks, there'll be the next in the series for the webinars that we're putting on. And we appreciate you being here. And
Sorry, Jeff, I did have one question.
yeah, right on.
Yeah, really quick. I've been toying this idea, which is going to sound so cheesy, but because we're a CPA firm and taxes are very not accessible, and I think our whole firm has a lot of personality, and I think that the CPA firm, you want accuracy, you want knowledge, but beyond that, I think that having somebody who's accessible is valuable. So I'm thinking of starting a tax history podcast, which sounds really cheesy. I haven't seen it been done before. And I think it would be a good way to convey information. It's not really something that's going to cost us a lot per se, but I've been playing around with AI, writing scripts, and then kind of prepping it. But what do you think? 2 cents.
Podcasts are underused. I think, I have seen and you don't have to have like a following base of millions of people. You can have a few, but that's a great start. And think about this. What do you have to lose?
Right. Thank you.
What do you have to lose? I know that can give you information. It'll help you using your voice, testing some concepts, having fun. Let's not forget that in our business strategy, having fun, talking to other nerds. I'm a nerd. I love data, as you can see. So, like having your nerd club, whatever it is, it can be yeah. What do you have to lose?
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. I think I needed that today, so I appreciate it.
Oh, wonderful. Send it to me. Send it my way. I would love to hear
it. I will. Once we get there. I'll send it out. Thank you. Newper, yeah.
Newper. So as someone who's done a lot of podcasts myself, the thing I would also add to that discussion is be really clear why you're doing it. In other words, if you're doing it primarily to be the expert, then gear everything towards that. But there's a missed opportunity in podcasts that I have missed, and that is not only build your brand as the expert and the one who's got that craziness and a little different, but invite guests that you would like to have as clients. But don't talk
a good
to them
point.
in the conversation about how you're the greatest. Let them experience you. So you get the double whammy. You get to build your credibility, you get content, you get to create some presence, and you're talking to the people you want to do business with.
That's a good point. That's
Great
perfect.
point.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy I brought it up. Thank you both.
No,
All right.
great point, Jeff.
Well, everybody have a great day. Look for the next one. And thank you again, Patty, for being here with us and sharing your wisdom. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
Patty. Good
Thanks,
presentation.
Patty.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.